for the ladies, ladies, ladies. It's the Ladies First Chit-Chat crew. It's time for the ladies, ladies, ladies. It's the Ladies First Chit-Chat crew. L-A-D-I-E-S, I-E-S, I-E-S, L-A-D-I-E-S, and we're up first. L-A-D-I-E-S, I-E-S, I-E-S, L-A-D-I-E-S, and we're up first.
Speak what you want.
Be great.
Speak what you want.
Be great.
Speak what you want.
Be great. And we're up first.
Bonjour, unboxed. Bonjour, unboxed. Bonjour, unboxed.
And we're up first.
Yes, ladies. That's dope.
Yes, ladies.
That's dope.
Yes, ladies.
That's dope.
And we're up first. It's time for the ladies, ladies, ladies. It's the Ladies First Chit-Chat crew. It's time for the ladies, ladies, ladies. It's the Ladies First Chit-Chat crew.
One time for the ladies in the house. Two time make the people scream and shout. Lachelle, Chandra, Crystal with Nikki. On Boss, Ed, May, and Nikki.
L-A-D-I-E-S, I-E-S, I-E-S, L-A-D-I-E-S, and we're up first. L-A-D-I-E-S, I-E-S, I-E-S, L-A-D-I-E-S, and we're up first. What's up, y'all? It's time for the ladies.
Hey,
I can't get enough of that bass.
I know.
Good morning, y'all. Y'all look beautiful in your red. Look at
This red
that.
looks good. This red looks yummy.
I know this red look real yummy. Good
It looks
morning.
orange to me, though, on my side. Does it look orange?
It looks red.
I have a little orangey tone to it on my end too, but it's bright, so I like it.
It's just a more pale red. That's what it looks to me. I don't have much red either, so
We red.
I just found out that.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First Chit Chat crew, where we honor the voice of the everyday woman. I see Miss Rose is in the house. She said, "Good morning, ladies."
Good morning.
Good morning, Rose.
Shout out to Lachelle, Chandra, Crystal, and Nikki. I love it. We missing Shelly today. Are we missing her? Or is she gonna pop in? Are we missing?
I don't know.
I think we're missing her. Because I know
Shawnee's like.
I think we're
No.
missing her. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're missing this in there. She was trying to sneak
Trying
away.
to- Yeah.
Yeah. That's what
Oh.
she did. You know, our doctor also, she's out getting more input to share.
Mhm.
You know, we all do our personal development, professional development. Chandra, Crystal, Nikki, myself, Lachelle, and getting more, stuff inside to share with each other and ourselves and our viewers.
Mhm.
Well, y'all, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a little tired this morning.
Me too.
Mhm. Same. Listen. Let the church say.
Amen. I feel funny saying it as I look at Chandra and her two children, her two babies. I'm like, I'm tired.
I'm going in on her.
Let me tell you why I'm not tired. Let me help you because
Okay.
I have a picture in front of me. Shawnee, give me some grace here. But this is why I'm not tired. I have it sitting right here. So anytime this is also my workspace. So when I get, you know how people get at work. If before my face gets tight, I look at and I'm like, hey babies. I have more babies I gotta add here, but because I just got this because my friend sent it to me. Because she loves me best.
Listen, my friend cracks up all the time because he's like, "You are probably the one of the only people that still sends mailers." He
you're,
calls
you're
them
the
mailers.
you're the
I think
only
it's
one.
great.
The only.
He said, "You know, you good for a mailer." I said, "Yes, honey. People still need to know that you can get love through the mail, honey. A
Yes.
handwritten card."
But I was
I think it's great.
almost like, where do I put this? Like real photos, you know what I mean? Because everything is digital. Like
Hmm.
I was like, I'll put it on my desk.
If everything crashed, you gonna have a picture of my baby.
Well, y'all, thank you. Speaking of love and crashing and all the good stuff. Um,
That's what you got crashing.
yeah, good crashing. I said love. I said love
Okay.
first. Said love first. I'm talking about love crashing because it's all about training. It's all about today's show. We call it Training Day. How to discern and how to respond. How to embrace the insight of it and how to respond. And we always tell y'all we have our talks on Thursday. And it all started with me talking about my experience at Daily Burn this week. I think most of our viewers know, I'm Gifted with Nick. I'm an instructor on an online workout program called Daily Burn. And I had just gotten off the plane from visiting my mother in Virginia to celebrate my birthday. Shout out to Miss Pat. And I just got off the plane Tuesday morning, and I went straight from LaGuardia to on set. And I'm ashamed to say I was a little dehydrated. I hadn't fueled my body like I preach and like I do usually before I do my daily burn. And as I was teaching, when the lights come on, I'm on a 9.5, possibly a 10. And in the middle of working out, I caught a huge cramp. Now I have these people looking at me and I'm teaching. I caught a huge cramp. And in the midst of me working out, first I was like, am I hurt? I really had to assess. I was like, am I in pain or am I just getting a cramp? And I know a lot of people say, well, Nikki, a cramp is pain. I'm an athlete. So my mindset goes a little bit differently with that. And so I asked myself, am I in pain? Or am I about to harm myself? Or is this just a challenge? And I looked at it as a challenge. And so I could keep going because people were counting on me. I decided to move to an option. Instead of doing push-ups on my toes, with my feet totally out, I went on my knees. Instead of, doing a squat jump, I just did a regular squat. And by shifting to the option, it still was effective. I still was able to push through the challenge, still able to do my job for the day, and I still felt good about it. And I talked about it with the viewers. I didn't act like nothing was wrong. I told them, look, hey y'all, I just got a cramp. Let's make sure we stay hydrated. I'm human too. I didn't follow what I usually do. So we started talking about when you differentiate between something being a challenge to your life and something being harmful to your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the ladies, Crystal and Nikki on Boss and Shani and Lachelle were saying that one of the reasons they felt like I was able to shift is because I had the training. I'd had the physical training of knowing my body and knowing what to do when I get into trouble or when things get challenged. So I was able to shift and go to an option that was just effective. But as we were saying that, yeah, physically I'm trained. Physically, I have the tools to do what I need to do. But I started noticing that sometimes emotionally, I don't have the tools. And that's where our show started up. I'm saying, we're saying it's that time again. Every year we talk about our tools and in our toolbox, and it's time to brush up on our skills and add new tools to our toolbox. Tools that support us in knowing the difference between things that challenge us versus things that harm us and so much more. So today we talking about training day, being in training. And let's kick it off, y'all. We got people joining. Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Yeah, I think that was a really powerful example on so many levels, right? We were talking also about how not only differentiating after you differentiate that there's an option, like, do you say anything? Because you could have done that very differently. You could have lied and said to the viewers, like, I don't know. You didn't have to tell them what was going on. You could have
Right.
stopped. You could have said to, your director who was filming, listen, we need to go to a commercial. Like, you could have done a lot of things, but you chose authenticity, which I think is powerful, because what I say when I'm in all situations, when I'm conversing with people, I never want people to feel like they're alone, right? I feel I share openly because I've grown to that place, though, in terms of the training. I really think that when you share that you felt something and you knew what to do and you did it right in front of everyone, that gives other people license and comfort to do the same. Because I think sometimes we feel embarrassed. I'm the girl in the back of the class that needs the option. I didn't used to be that girl, though. I didn't need the option before. Now I need the option. And even though I know that it's as effective, I don't know that I always feel comfortable doing the option. So I might try to press even though it's not good for me. You know what I'm saying? So I was really just, even in the physical aspect of this, I was really happy that you had the courage to say, I'm going to flip this and not be like less than myself for doing it.
Right. And it's from my producers. When I said I was injured, they had signs up like, stop, Nikki, we can stop. And I did have to assess again. I said, okay, is this my ego that's pushing through, or am I okay? And I was like, this is just a challenge. And I said, let me use this as a teaching moment. Let me use this as a shared life experience, like you said, so everyone else could understand. I mean, everybody goes through these challenges, and what are we going to do? But like I said, I had to assess for a moment. They saw it in my face. Am I hurt? Am I harming myself? Because if I was harming myself, I needed to stop and take a look. But it was a challenge. It was a challenge that I was able to push through. And like we said, I had the tools to do that. But as we were talking, I was like, where I do struggle with is some of the emotional tools that I need.
Or acknowledging that we don't have the tools.
I'll say this. I'll bring it from a different perspective as an artist and performer. I definitely come from the generation or the age of our teachers were like, don't stop, can't stop, won't stop. Meaning like, if you hurt, if you got no pain, no gain, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just push through. You don't even put it, you don't make that, the facial expressions. Ain't no option. Ain't no option. You push all the way through, that was what's the word? I don't know the word to put there, but just that was how we were raised. That's how we were raised as performers. It's just like you keep going no matter what, and not even understanding or realizing or seeing that there's an option there for you to take. I love this lady to the core, Miss Debbie Allen, and she is one of my mentors, and that was the age that she came out of. And so that's what she taught. It's just like, I don't care what's happening, you figure a way to make it look good and make it look graceful without the audience knowing, And so for us to now have the option to this, I guess, I don't know all the terms, Gen X, Gen B, then Gen T. I don't know all that. However, this next generation that's coming up behind me, they don't give two F's about nothing. If they're hurt, they'll tell you, oh, I'm hurt, I ain't doing that. Stop. Rewind the tape, because I ain't doing it, and that's just a total like generational thing, because our past generations will find ways to keep pushing, keep going, and the new generations have definitely found a way to speak their mind and tell you, no, we need a moment. I need to take a moment and regroup myself and decide if I'm going to continue or not. And most of them say, nah, G, we're gonna come back another day. And
but you know, I wanted to mention something. Why I said it took courage, even though you had the tools and the training, it took courage for you to do that option, because you also, as an athlete, as a premier athlete, as a lifelong athlete, come from this world of pushing through.
Like,
so
yeah.
no matter what.
But it's funny you said that. I do come from the world of pushing through, and just like Shawnee, it was a no pain, no gain back in the day, and it wasn't until I started to get older, really started to really engage with my clients and really get in touch with myself and say, you know, that's some bullshit. That's not what we need to do. And it's so funny you talk about courage, and we talked about Simone Biles. I mean, she was one person specifically as a premier athlete that had a challenge, you know, encountered a challenge, and her challenge happened to be her mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And she chose to assess, is this a challenge, or if I keep going, is this going to harm me? And she chose, she said, this is going to harm me, and I'm not going to take any chances. And I think she chose extreme courage when people were beating her up. And I would get so upset when I would see, you know, as a former professional athlete, seeing non-professional athletes put on there saying she quit this. It would upset me. I'm like, you know, the mental and the physical that you get to put yourself through. And I thought she showed extreme courage as someone that really assessed, okay, I know what challenges are, but I'm really in a point, I believe if I move forward, I'm going to hurt myself. I think today we get the opportunity to talk about what's the training that we need to differentiate. Is this a challenge in life, or are we about to hurt ourselves? What do we do? Whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, what do we do, and how do we what do we get to do to move forward with that?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting concept is really understanding what we have the tools to combat. You know, the thought of am I trained to do, or am I just going off of impulse? You know, most of us, I know that before I was building my toolbox with different things to, you know, pull from in situations, I definitely just jumped off of impulse, and it was definitely hurting me, you know, day in and day out. But once I really took a moment and started building a toolbox, and we say, what are those things that you need to build your toolbox? I mean, everybody has their own different box that they have to feel for themselves. Like for me, it was, I had to learn how to center myself and really take moments to ground myself before going into different situations. Like see, grounded. I'm grounded. I didn't sway. I didn't move at all. But you know what I'm saying? I had to figure out ways to really, especially in my profession, like you walk into a room and you can be, the rug can be ripped up from under you like in seconds, you know? And so I just had to really find ways to ground myself. Meditation, prayer. You know, prayer and meditation are two totally different things, okay? Prayer, meditation, just having a stillness about me, being able to really walk into situations and assess before speaking, before moving, before reacting. You know, those are things that I really have changed in my adulthood, because I was an impulse, you know, pull my earrings off and let's go in a second type person, you know, and being able to really understand the difference between situations, reacting in situations that can harm me versus, you know, really, what's the other word, going into situations that, you know, can really, what's the word, y'all, sidebar, when you have a baby, your brain goes all the way to space. Okay, I mean, like words be right here and then they be gone. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. I definitely have found different ways to build my toolbox. And with me, the biggest thing was grounding myself and going into different situations and really assessing before reacting.
It's so funny how you talk about. Go ahead, Chrissy. You about to
No,
say something?
Nikki. No, Nikki was about to say something.
Oh,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Crystal. You can go ahead. I'm taking it all in.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
I think there was a. I was trying to think of an emotional place that is not as developed, right? So I had a reference of a relationship I was in many years ago, and that that is this an option or am I in pain? Is there an option within this relationship or am I in pain? Was something that had to really be assessed, and it was in this relationship for a longer period of time. I don't want to say than I should have been, but there was pain, and instead of emotional pain, let me just clarify, and I didn't I recognized it as pain but called it something else. You know what I mean? And then I think there is emotional harm when you don't really, if something, you go to the doctor and they say on a scale of 1 to 10 how bad is the pain, and you're like, okay, are we just supposed to be in pain all the time as women? Or you know how there's all this language around women, everything hurts, it's hard, and all of this stuff. So it's like, oh yeah, it's supposed to be painful, and it's like, yeah, but what if it's not supposed to be painful? It comes with challenges. Parenting comes with challenges. Relationships come with challenges. Work stuff comes with you know what I mean? Those what's the difference between this is a challenge for me, I'm growing in this regard, or this is harmful to me and it doesn't feel good. And I think, Shani, when you talked about the Gen XYZ, whatever, I think that, we are clearly, we're saying them, but, some, right? Because some are built from, some have different responses. But I think it's something about like this mindset, even in relationships, even in life stuff, like there is no option. You stay. You finish the race. Whatever, versus no, I do have an option. I can say this is not good for me. This might be good for y'all, but this ain't good for me anymore. And then if I stay, I'm going to risk harming myself because this is not good for me. This is not, oh, this is, I'm studying for a test. My son was studying for a test this past week, several tests. And it's just like, it's a part of the process versus this is causing me harm. And I think that is when you talk about what's in your toolbox, your EQ has to be built, and hopefully it should be built as you get older, right? Your people talk about IQ all the time. Your EQ is as important because you will be impulse for the rest of your life if you don't get it together to say like, okay, what is this assessment that I need to do? Because this right here can't be a cliff jumping moment. No shade to the cliff jumpers. I'm just saying it can't be like impulse all the time. I have to stop, assess, and figure out what's the best port of call here, because this could be bad if I don't think about it.
I agree with you, Crystal, and I know if like physically, like I've said, I know how to discern if it's harmful or challenging, but emotionally, as I got older, as a people pleaser that is acknowledging that we're working through that so it services me more so than harm me. That's some of the stuff I had to work through. Like we talked about, I would allow people to sometimes talk to me any old kind of way and brush things back, and I would look at it, it's just a challenge in our relationship, or a challenge on how to speak. And what happened was, emotionally, I started to let those things just build up and build up and get to me, that I'm not a pop offer. I don't like to pop off on people. I don't like to talk to people ugly. I like to, like Shawnee said, take a beat and assess and then respond. But I'm gonna be honest with you. This week I had a great weekend with my family. I think it was one of the best birthdays I've had in a very, very long time. And it was time for me to come back to New York. What am I about to cry? And I was not ready to come back. And oh, my mom dropped me off. My mom and my stepfather dropped me off at the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm crying. I've been crying since I was a kid to leave home. And I got back, and as soon as I got back in this hustle and bustle, it was just challenge after another challenge, 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 challenge. And I got a phone call, and the phone call, when I looked at the phone call, I was like, do not answer this phone, because I knew that my headspace wasn't in a great space. And when I answered the phone call, I was met with a challenge. And the challenge, and because I just had allowed all these challenges all day to get to me, all these challenges had come to a point where it was harming me. And I did something that was very uncharacteristic of who I am. And and I had to really take a stand and assess. And I was happy that I was able to assess immediately what it was. But one of the reasons I was able to assess, because as I started to get older and realized there was some emotional stuff I needed to work on, I took a personal development program. I went and took a personal development program to develop tools to work on my how I respond to people pleasing, how I respond to wanting to be a leader and moving forward and leading other people like myself. I took a personal development class, and in that personal development class, I was able to really know when something is challenging for me emotionally and when I need to step away and when I need to assess. So I think what upset me so much, because I popped off, I did have the tools to assess and I didn't use them. That's what upset me. I have the tools to take a step and assess, but I didn't use them. But then I asked myself, why didn't I use them? And I hate to say this, I secretly think I wanted to just that's not good either,
But it happens.
I just won't talk to me like that.
And that's what we talked about too this week, Nikki. Like, it happens, right? And we can't beat ourselves up. I mean, personally, I'm in training every day. And I think what was so powerful about the story, when you shared it, it was just timely for me too. But when you shared your own story about what was happening with your daily burn, what really like caught my attention and I settled in it was the comment that you made about how you asked yourself the question, right? Am I harming myself, right? Or am I just, I forget the exact words, but, or am I uncomfortable, right? And at that point, you forced yourself to make a decision. And the decision was focused on the end game. And so right away, some of the things, because of things that are on my mind right now, I aligned it to just like managing my weight and exercise, right? I'm an all in or an all out person. So if I'm eating, I'm not exercising. If I'm exercising, then I'm going to watch what I'm eating because I need to see the full result. And as a result of that, every other year, I go up 70 pounds, I go down 70 pounds. And this is the first time in my life that I realized, okay, you went up, but if you had kept exercising, right, the results I may have still gained, but the look of everything that I'm experiencing may be different. And so I continually make it harder for myself. So the reason why those words, and you can use that whole idea, am I harming myself or is this a challenge, in any situation, but it also was a reminder to stay in touch with yourself, right? And where I was going to go with that, the reason why I'm in training every day is whether it's I attribute it to the conversations we have or the personal development that I might be doing outside of this, just like you shared that you had invested in yourself. Those are all the things, or a therapist, right? Those are all the things that continue to feed you in a way that you don't even realize. It's broadening the options before you when you are in situations when things are feeling kind of different and you're trying to figure out whether or not you move forward or you stop. But my
So
takeaway
I have a question.
was keeping that in mind. Is that challenging, or am I harming myself in everything I do for that reason?
Mm-hmm,
Because it's so
mm-hmm,
easy to just stop.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I have a question with that being said. How can you tell the difference between, or is there even, is this even real, between something that is painful
Mm-hmm.
or a pain that is pushing you to growth?
That's a good
Is
Mm-hmm.
question.
there,
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is that real? Is pain that, does growth have to be painful at all?
I wanted to say something very, a companion question to what you just said, Shani, to Nikki as the athlete trainer, because there may be a correlation here. If you are training somebody and say like pain in and of itself is part of it, right? How do you tell them to assess whether it's like part of the process of doing push-ups or stop? How do you tell them that?
I do have to tell people they get to know their own body and their own threshold. I do believe that there is a moment where if you feel like you're shaking or something, like say push-ups, you feel like you're shaking, I do encourage them to push through. But if you feel like you are pulling something and there's a muscle that's about to burst out, and then I tell you to stop. But if it's a matter of you're feeling a little wobbly, a little shaky, you're entering territory that you've never been before, then I encourage you to push through. But if you are,
You preaching, right?
hey,
You know you preaching, right?
if
Uh-huh.
you go into territory you've never been before, I encourage you to push through. But if you feel like your muscle is about to pull out and just rip, then that's pain, and that's where we get to stop. That's where we get to stop. But sometimes when you're doing that little shake, even myself, when I'm doing that little shake, and I'm like, okay, I have never gone over this number before, and I know I can push through, and it may, and as long as my form is still the same, if you can push through and keep the form the same, I encourage my clients to keep going. It's when there is shakiness in your new territory and you feel like you're in a compromising position that's harmful and that's hurting you and you feel something pulling. That's when I say stop.
Because I
And
need to go back to what Nikki was saying. Nikki, when because the this with the diet, with the eating and the food, I think I relate to that so well, right? Because it's I hate to admit, but it does feel like kind of all or nothing for me too, right? It's I feel like, why should I be walking if I'm not eating right? Like I should be eating right and walking, or forget it. It feels like that. So Nikki, you blowing my mind right now. Give me a second. I'm processing. But it's like you said, if you're feeling a little shaky, like I know how to do all or nothing. That's what I know how to do. If it feels different, I almost feel like I may be equating it to emotional pain. I can't do this. This is too painful. This is too hard. So I'm doing nothing. So I stopped doing the push-up, in other words, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know how to push through when everything is aligned. I don't know how to push through when things feel like I'm hearing her say 5 more, but I'm like, I don't know how to do 5 more. I'm done.
that's
So
where I was suggesting the end game. If
right,
we can
right.
remind ourselves to focus on the end game, that's what that comment or that question you asked yourself did for me.
The
It
pain,
made
is
me
it
think,
pain
no,
or
it just
what's it?
made me think of when you ask. So part of my toolbox now, right, is that question, right? Is this challenging or is this harmful? The reason being is because it reminded me to think of what's the end game. If there's nothing positive or beneficial for me in the end game, I need to reevaluate what I'm doing here. And when you ask Chandra, is I forget your exact question, but I know my answer was, I think growth is just when you're growing, it's uncomfortable. When you're making options that you're choosing options that are different than you've done before, it's uncomfortable. But when you're in pain. I mean, you could take it to the extreme of, you're trying to do something great at work and it's just not landing well. Well, we talk about it all the time. It's time for you to pivot. That's not where you're supposed to be. I don't believe anything in your life should be painful. It should not make you cry every day. It should not, you should not feel it. But if it's feeling different because it's pushing you, like we've talked about, outside of your comfort zone, or it's putting you in a position where you're choosing things differently than you have before, but again, focusing on what we think our end game is for it, it's growth. It's just uncomfortable. Now you're left with the option of whether or not you want to choose an option to figure out how you continue to get there or sit your butt on the couch.
Right. I love that. Chrissy, we can't hear you. Chrissy. I'm going to read Rebecca's comment real quick. Rebecca says, the problem is also that people don't know the difference between the types of pain. It becomes, I'm uncomfortable, so I need to stop, rather than checking in to see what type of pain it is. Emotional, spiritual, physical. I know what you mean. Spiritual again. I know what you mean, Becca.
And that almost goes right back to self-investment.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We have to, and I said this, I'm in training every day. So how am I continuing, or how should I continue to invest in myself to learn more about me?
Mm-hmm.
Again, therapists, self-development programs, conversation with friends. Like we think a certain way, but when you get in conversation or you experience that thing you think you had an opinion about, now you have a different opinion because you're experiencing it. We're growing. So every day and every conversation, every engagement that we have, there's constantly things that are brought and we face that are teaching us. And we have to be looking at them, in my opinion. In any situation that I'm in, I try to walk away thinking, what am I getting out of this? Even in a bad situation, what was I supposed to learn from this? What about me did I like or not like in this situation? Mm-hmm. We're constantly in training. I don't think there's a silver bullet, but the more we invest in ourselves to learn about ourselves, right? And this is just a suggestion. It's not like I've been doing this all my life. I may do some of this, but you start to realize that your ability to make better decisions for yourselves will just sort of happen. If you think about things that you choose to do today that maybe you wouldn't have done 10 years ago, or what you're trying to push yourself to do today that you weren't able to do 5 years ago. Right. It's all because of the way you've been feeding yourself over that period of time that has led you to a place of where you are today, to look at it a little bit differently, analyze it, in a different way that's showing you that maybe it'll take you in X direction or Y direction, and you'll choose differently. My point is, we should be just looking at ourselves as we're in training every day, and everything we're doing is going to start to give us that better perspective of understanding ourselves, to really get in tune with whether or not we're hurting ourselves or we're just in a challenge. But with that said, it's very clear to me when something is harming you. There's no question in that. And so even if the end game, and you think this is the way you're supposed to be getting to the end game, you need to pivot, because nothing should make you hurt like that.
Right. Right. Nothing. And it's my other thing is too, you're right. Nothing should make you hurt like that. And, when they say, is growth painful? I do think growth is uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. I'm just speaking from my personal experience. Growth is uncomfortable. But I think sometimes, and hear me out, Shani and Nikki. Mm-hmm. Hear me out, viewers. Kind of unpack it in my head. Growth is uncomfortable. And I think sometimes when we avoid the uncomfortableness, when we avoid the challenge, we end up putting ourselves in position to continue harming ourselves. Does that make sense?
You're right.
I think about myself and my finances. I kept putting myself in position. I knew I needed to grow. I knew I needed to do something different because I felt the uncomfortableness because I wasn't in a space to really take a step back and take a look at it. I kept doing the same thing, expecting a different result. And all I was doing was harming myself and harming myself. And then finally, it's so funny, finally being with you all and also being honest with myself and honest with my mom and friends, I was able to get the hug and the love. I'm not necessarily the physical hug, but the love that I needed to support me in this growth and uncomfortableness. So I'm not harming myself anymore. Does that make sense? I was able to sit in being uncomfortable and growing. And then I think because I did it, I swear, God, universe, God brought all these different people in my life to support me and able to move forward. Does that make sense? I'm just looking at it that way. I think
and I also want to say to Rebecca that, you know what? I was thinking about it. Being uncomfortable can feel mighty painful sometimes. There is a blurred line sometimes where you can feel like it feels painful. So I want to acknowledge that. But then again,
right. That's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to get people to clarify for themselves.
Yeah.
Is the growth pain that that is uncomfortable and sometimes can feel like it is harming you and extremely painful, but in all actuality, like that's an extreme feeling of being uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying?
Finish the thought, like I equate it to what we say about our babies and our children, right? Okay, the baby won't stop crying. Well, I done fed the baby. I done changed the baby's diaper. I'm looking at the baby. The baby's fine. It's, there's nothing that's going to harm this baby. So you know what? You just have to cry until you get tired. Because I can see you're safe. And so to me, that's where I was going with this. I want to acknowledge that being uncomfortable, because I felt it myself, it feels extremely painful. But maybe that's how we look at it, right? What do we say about our kids, or what do we say to anybody? Like, are you safe? Are you getting ready to die? Like, do we need to shield you? And if all the answers are no to however you want to like script it, then okay, it's just uncomfortable. But again, I'll highlight again, when it's really painful, you know when it's painful.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no question there.
Yep. Definitely. Welcome back, Chrissy. I would love to hear from our viewers. Like I know Carmen just went, growth is uncomfortable. Rebecca said something. Where are you in a space where you can distinguish between things that are challenging for you and things that are harmful for you? And if you can, what are some of the tools that you use to do that? If you're not, I think it's an opportunity for us to continue. Like next week, you guys, we have an amazing speaker coming. We have a man coming on our show that's going to support us and all the things we've been talking about, bringing things into our life that service us and letting things out that do not service us, acknowledging and differentiating things that are challenging for us and things that are harmful for us. So I want to put that out there. If you can distinguish between the two, if there's a discernment between the two, what are some of the tools that you can share with us that you use? Like Shani said, there's a difference between meditation and praying, getting herself grounded. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's talking to a friend. Maybe it's tapping into the Ladies First Chit-Chat crew. I would love to hear from you guys and even us. What are some of the things that we do to do that?
I have to laugh. Rebecca said, take a deep breath. How many times did I say that to you when I spoke to you this week, Nikki?
I know. She did. Nikki said, she was driving. I'm just taking a deep breath.
I said it a couple times. That's all I've been telling myself the whole week. I'm taking a deep breath. I mean, honestly, I'm going to tell you, I didn't have it in my toolbox at all to ever I never even thought about it, to ask myself the question. So that's going in my toolbox. I think there's lots of things that we do, like Shani said, like pray or meditate, or daily affirmations, or whatever we're doing, right? But for me, the ad is just asking myself that question. I've never put a focus in the moment of challenge to question whether or not it's a challenge or is it hurting me. I think you just naturally do it, like when something's not right for you or whatever, like, but to actually ask myself the question to maybe make a different decision is what's new, that's going in my toolbox.
But
Carmen
before,
said, "I'm barefoot in my yard to ground myself." That's a cute picture of you,
so
Carmen.
good.
Look at you.
Hey, Carmen. I before my connection broke, what I was going to say is, with respect to the eating and health part we were talking about, the harm is high blood pressure, heart problems, high cholesterol. So it is harming yourself if you're not taking care. People might look at it in one way, like maybe how the outside looks, or the number on the scale. One of my best friends and I talk about this all the time, the scale, these other barometers, but really it's very harmful. It's causing, it doesn't feel like pain, but it's going to be painful to get a diagnosis that is something that was probably connected to being more right. It's
Sorry, guys.
this thing that we are doing, and I say we because I'm with you, right? Is not at all like just about the part that we put the focus on. And so that's the part that's scary. And when you talk to people that have conquered, like I met a woman, I was teaching a dance class a couple of weeks ago, and this woman, or women I didn't know, and she was saying that she started to take care of herself after a cancer diagnosis.
Mhm.
And she's like, I've got another chance, and I'm going to make sure that my body is healthy so that I can fight this thing from a very healthy place. And she was, I didn't look at her and say, anything other than she looked wonderful, but I would have never thought that that was the part that propelled her into really taking care of herself from a health and wellness perspective.
Right, right. I love that you mentioned that though, Chrissy. The harm, when you talked about the harm is high blood pressure. The harm is
Mm-hmm.
this. The harm is that. That is the
Mm-hmm.
harm.
Mm-hmm.
We get to stay within the challenge to push through to avoid the harms. You know what I'm saying?
Say that
Um,
once again.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you get to put. Oh, I feel like Lachelle. What I say? You get to push through the challenges, so the harms won't come through. I think that's what I
Yeah,
said.
yeah. That is what you said. That's powerful.
And
Sorry,
look,
I laugh. Yeah.
that
Did
put
you just
on
put it up?
Uptown,
That's why I laughed.
that put on
I
Uptown Funk and
love,
dance. That's right,
I'm
Mama
right
E.
there with
listen,
you.
Mama E
Enid.
said put on Uptown Funk and
Yes.
dance. You know what I've added to my toolbox? Two things I've added to my toolbox since 2020 when we first talked about toolboxes. I've added being very honest with myself. I think sometimes I have not been honest with myself because it's uncomfortable. I've added that, and I've also added to my toolbox releasing shame. I've added that. I think sometimes I personally harm myself by putting shame around things and avoiding the honesty. Does that make sense? And so, one of the things that I am doing this year is really being honest with myself and adding an additional mirror into that toolbox so I can look at myself and look in that. And then also just um, adding the tool of releasing things, releasing shame. It's so funny when I talk about to my clients, I talk about releasing weight, not losing weight. Because if you lose it, you're gonna find it. Let's release it. So I'm putting that there, releasing. Those are two of the things that I have added to my toolbox in order for me to move forward. Yep. What y'all adding to your toolboxes? Viewers, girls, ladies.
You know what I think is in you and Shawnee's toolbox?
Mm-hmm.
Because you guys reference it a lot, and I can tell that it helps you guys assess, is that love language book that you
We need
you
to have a
both
show.
you both reference it a lot, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's in your toolbox when you guys, and I say it to you because it really, there's always things that resonate with others, and it seems that seems to resonate with both of you in a way that helps you to assess. And I don't know if everybody's read, is it five love languages, four love
Five love
languages?
language. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
who's the author?
Gary S. Chapman. It's in the religious section. I can't believe I
Mm-hmm.
just ratted that off. It's right there. Gary S.
Mm-hmm.
Chapman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that Five Love Languages book is great when it comes to being able to communicate with people.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because it's
ironic,
not only partners, right? It's
not
everyone.
only it's
Yeah.
it's when you
Mm-hmm.
are in your work life, especially as us being leaders in your work life, in your team, in your staff, you get to. It's funny, part of my process at hiring people into my um, work. I'm in the process. Rebecca and I are in the process of hiring an assistant. They get to take. They have to take the five love languages test. They have to take the strength finders test. So I know how we can work together. Yes, yes. So I know how we can work together. I think part of the thing of assessing things that are harmful for you and that are challenging, especially with dealing with other people, is not only knowing your language and how you put things out, but also knowing your friends' languages. Knowing, I just learned the other day that I thought I was communicating to one of my best friends on what was on my mind. And I realized they weren't hearing me. Why? Because I wasn't speaking their love language. And what that happens is it's harming our relationship. So because I have that tool in me, it's my responsibility and to use that tool to push through the challenges. And so I'm glad you said that. That just kind of hit me a little bit. It's my responsibility to use that tool to push through the challenges and share that tool with my friend. That's what I get to do. That's what I get to do. Yep. And you know who had to kind of school me on that was Brittany Griffin. But I'm gonna use Brittany as an example. Y'all know Brittany's one of my best friends, and I have watched her go through a personal development phase that I find myself calling her like, help, whereas before it used to be the other way. So she is really, by her getting new tools in her box, she is sharing her tools with me, where I used to feel like it was the other way around. So go grab yourself some good friends that got some tools too. That's what we need to do. Grab yourself some good friends that got some tools and want to share with you. Would you add me your tool?
Just not be so rushed.
Huh?
I said maybe also just not to be so rushed to decision. You know, sometimes I heard a number of times it came up about acting impulsively. I'm not an impulsive person, but I have heard us mention it a couple of times, just in terms of maybe how we've engaged in certain things. Um, I'm I think a lot to a point of maybe it's too much. I give a lot of thought to very different perspectives in terms of how others also might be thinking of things, so I can take into account. Um, which, like I said, it might be too much, but that's a natural thing that I do. But I think in general, like if you're an impulsive person, maybe that's what goes in your toolbox. Just don't be so in a hurry, right? Because sometimes
So
when you're in
slow
a hurry, you make the wrong decision.
So slow. So we get to slow down, slowing down, taking a breath, taking a beat, assessing to the
Hmm.
toolbox,
Hmm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I really wanted to focus it on, specifically decision. Sometimes people immediately are faced with something and you don't give it an opportunity to really even assess if we use the question you ask yourself, is it harmful to me or is this just a challenge? Sometimes we just react. And
Mm-hmm.
so really focusing on decisions, that's where I'm saying don't be in such a rush in a hurry. And it's funny because there's something this week that happened, and I went to respond in text, and something I got distracted. It wasn't a bad thing, but I got distracted. And in the process of me getting distracted, there were 5 other texts that came through, and my opinion changed. So that's my point. Like I was like, oh,
So
wait.
taking a beat.
Yeah.
Shelly says that all the time about, things happening to save you or what she say about like, being late can save you from
I
an
love
accident
it.
or something like that nature. And I mean, that's the same thing with what you're saying.
Yeah.
The act of taking a breath is an act of protection.
Yeah.
In all forms of it. If it's, you're late, if it's you just get distracted, if it's all that kind of things, it is by some means protecting you of what's coming next.
Yeah.
You might have responded to that, and then that could have turned the whole conversation into something, that you didn't want it to be. But for me, I definitely
a whole bunch of other options that were, if we do this, then we could do all of this. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, let me think about that again. You don't know all the information, I guess was the point around that. But yeah, Lachelle did point out something that I've thought about, but again, that's something else that's going in my toolbox. Like I've thought about, oh, that was supposed to happen. But you know how we say that, and then it's just like words. But when I really thought about it, when Lachelle said it, it was more than just words. Like you missed your train this morning, and you had to get on the next one, and look what happened if you had been on that train. You know what I mean? Like, so to her point it was there to save you. It was there to get you there when you were supposed to get there at the time you did for whatever reason. So she doesn't stress about any of it. If she's late for something, she was meant to be late, for whatever reason it is. So that was really good.
I have to tell you just something about responding to email and text and stuff. Like I've learned the hard way. Just I can't respond if I'm feeling a certain way, because what I'm feeling is in my response, and it's not necessarily connected to what the person was thinking when they wrote, right? So example, it's funny. There's a woman who is now a hair client of mine, and she asked me if I could do her hair on Friday, and I was waiting to have a response for her, and I didn't have the response of my availability. But in the meantime, this is the busiest time for work for me. Like I can't even breathe. I cannot even breathe. 12, 14-hour days for weeks and weeks. I am almost near tears almost every day, right? So, but I keep my hair stuff because it's a creative outlet for me. It's my side thing, whatever. So she got back to me and she said I hadn't responded, so she said, "Is Friday okay?" She just says, "Is Friday okay?" I heard, because I'm up to here with work and emotional, whatever. "Is Friday okay?" That's how I heard it, right? And I was like, sure, right? She come to you yesterday and she goes, "Oh, I'm so glad Friday was okay." I was like, "Yeah, after you yelled at me." She goes, "I didn't yell at you. I just said it's Friday okay." So you see what I'm saying? My whole thing had nothing to do with her. Nothing to do with her. It had everything to do with how I was feeling at the time. And I was like, I'm so glad I didn't respond in that moment. Something that's in my toolbox, and I'll give you one thing that's in there and one thing that I'm putting in. I tell Nikki all the time, whenever we're talking about people, she'll tell me a story, and I was like, that has nothing to do with you, right? That's this person's ish. It's not yours. Your response is just like I was going to respond to her, like, "Well, I told you I would get back to you," right? That had nothing to do with her. All she said is, "Was Friday okay?" So I am really a person that most often realizes that something that's going on, if the response is different, it probably has nothing to do with me. It's this other person and their stuff that's coming at me. And then I have to figure out, I have to assess how I want to deal with that. So that's one thing.
Second thing for Nikki that you blessed me with today is your description of how. Exactly, I wanted you to say that to me, but I'm glad you heard yourself say it. How you teach people how to assess. You teach people how to do it just in the physical. If you're feeling wobbly, you're just uncomfortable, and you teach them also how to assess pain. And that is going to be in my toolbox because it's very, very powerful distinction. And also this pain, if we look at pain in and of itself, because that's what we started talking about, is the pain something that I feel physically? No, it's emotional. And it could be harming my health. This is painful to be in this up down weight thing, and then it causes, like, how am I going to feel 5 years from now if something that I had the power or ability to do to prevent health problems is in my hand, and I'm messing it up
Right.
because I think it's about the scale, or I think it's about my waistline number. So I have something that is in there already. I'm putting something else in, and I'm constantly looking for more things that help me in the self development space to build, because I don't want to be in a place of operating in pain and calling it discomfort.
Right. I think I love that, Chrissy. I think something that you just made me decide to put in my toolbox is something that I don't even know if she remembers this. I remember it like it was yesterday. I know we got to get ready to wrap. And I always remember when Shawnee and I used to train, and I see her vividly going up the incline, warming up, and I'm on the treadmill, and all of you guys have said this to me, but I really see her telling me this, trusting my gut and my instinct. She said to me, I don't even know if you remember this, Shawnee. You said to me one day, she says, Nikki, every time you talk to me about your gut and your instinct is right. And all of you and people that are close to me tell me to trust my gut and my instinct. And my gut and my instinct, like you said, taking a beat on that text message was not to pick up that phone the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to re put back into my toolbox, trusting my gut and my instincts.
Mm-hmm.
And not responding right away because everyone will be okay. That's the assessment I get to do, is trusting my gut and my instinct. So,
And knowing when it's somebody else's stuff.
and knowing when it's somebody else's. Shiny, Nikki, y'all want to say anything before we wrap up? Well, the other thing I want to about when you said, like, I was thinking about what Nikki had said when you said, like, I know this is, your 12, 14-hour days. Nikki, what popped in for me is what Nikki says, recognizing what the end game is. Recognizing what the end game is. And maybe that can give you some comfort, recognizing what the end game is. You're about to do something very powerful. The end game is powerful. And also you're changing your daughter's life. You're adding something amazing to your daughter's life with this end game you're about to do. I talked to her yesterday. I talked to Thais yesterday. So, yeah. Crystal's like, okay, Nikki.
No, I'm listening. I'm a student in this life.
There's something else that popped in my head twice that I'm also going through personally, and that's along with it's with the weight thing. So that's why I'm going to bring it up too, and it falls over into everything. It's acceptance, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to me, that has to be in your toolbox. It's funny. I made a joke to someone. I said, damn, I keep going back to the same place. Am I supposed to be here? So what is the real issue behind that, right? Am I, there's some part of this that causes you harm when you're just not being fully accepting of who you are, what you look like, what position you are in, because you're constantly, you don't need anybody else to be your hater, right? You can be a really strong hater for yourself.
Girl.
So part of, and it's starting, my focus where I started to think about this was with the weight, because no matter what size I am, I seem to get the same, whether it's compliments or comments that are made to me. So who's real, or what is the real issue, right? and it's harmful in terms of what I'm doing to myself, you know, whether it's going up or down, but having which goes hand in hand with this level of acceptance to not have to be all in or all out. Because actually, I like being thick, right? But
Can you make that shirt for me, Shani?
I like being thick.
I like being thick. If I really wanted to be honest, it's not about being thin. It's about looking good, right? It's about being in shape. So for me, another part of this journey and going into this toolbox is acceptance.
I love it.
It's funny you say that. I was playing with Alec yesterday, and I was just saying like, "Oh, you're so chunky and cute, you're so chunky." And then I literally, as I was saying that to her, I said, "Girl, but they're gonna be telling you got to be skinny in a minute. Like, why were we babies? Why when they're babies?
I'm so mad at you right now.
I literally had this conversation with her, and she was
What'd she
like,
say?
"What are you talking about?" But she was like, "I'm like they." You know, as babies, they want you to be chunky and fat, and you know that is considered healthy. And then when you are an adult, it's skinny, and that's considered healthy. And it's just like that just made me think of it. Anyway, sidebar. But you know what? In my toolbox, I definitely am revisiting patience and with myself and with people around me and grace, and that actually helps me.
You just said revisiting. So you're considering it.
Considering it.
Okay.
Look, because my patience is real thin right now with what's going on in my background. But you know, I say all the time, Callie changed my life. Having Callie changed my life, and how having Alec expanded my ability for change. And so, like, because so many things have changed, and it has been very uncomfortable for me during this, you know, with Alec. And I put that, I'm putting that into my toolbox, is just having the capacity and the ability to be okay with change and what all that comes with. And it's extreme discomfort. It's knowing the difference between what's painful and what's you know, an option. It's all those things. But I say having Alec expanded my capacity for change is because my pregnancy was in my eyes, like just the most horrible thing ever. But you know, I went through it and experienced it and lived to tell about it. And so did she. So yes, so I'm putting, say hi everybody.
Hi.
So I'm definitely putting the patience and a capacity for change back into my toolbox, and really understanding the difference between what is there to expand me with not realizing that it's painful, but also just that it is uncomfortable and not painful. Because sometimes I asked that question earlier because I definitely confuse the two sometimes. I was like, is this really painful to help me, or is this painful for real? Right. And so I'm definitely trying to put things back into my toolbox to help me decipher between the two of what is painful for growth, but is really just extreme uncomfort, or if it's really painful.
I love that.
And Nikki, I just want to say, I talked about acceptance going into the toolbox, but I want to be clear. Acceptance is not just settling. It's not, you know, giving up. It's about appreciating.
Mm.
You know, I just wanted to make sure. I was listening to Shani. I was like, okay, I need to be really clear. It's about appreciating, because we can beat ourselves up, right? You know, find a space where the acceptance is you're appreciating while you're going through the change. You're appreciating while you're making different decisions. Don't beat yourself up. So that, you know, again, it's all focused on yourself. self-growth.
Well, we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to continue. I want to put out to our viewers and to us. I love what Crystal put out to our viewers. She acknowledged one of the things that was already in her toolbox that's servicing her. And then she said, now this is what I get to add to my toolbox. And I want to put that out to us and to our viewers. This week, let's acknowledge the tools that we already have. Let's think about those tools that we can share. And then let's also say, okay, I get to add this to my toolbox. And next week, like I said, we have a really great special guest coming on that's going to continue to support us and embracing what services us and supporting us and releasing what doesn't service us. So make sure you come back next week because we're doing a really great maybe hypno exercise. We are doing a hypno exercise. And we're so blessed that we got 2 life coaches on with us next week, y'all. We got, of course, our girl Shelly Shell will be back. She just sent us a message saying I love and miss y'all. She sent us a text. And we have the Mr. Charles West with us next week. So y'all are not going to want to miss next week. We love y'all. Again, acknowledge what's in your toolbox. Acknowledge the tools that are already in your toolbox and share. And then think about those things that we get to add into our toolboxes. And we're going to continue on to unpack this next week. I love y'all. I love my sisters. Shelly, we love you. We miss you. And we love our viewers. Have a beautiful Saturday, everybody. Ladies, anything you want to say before I go? Who's first? Ladies, we good?
Let's just keep training.
Have a good Saturday.
Have a good Saturday.
Who's first? Ladies. Who's first? Ladies. Who's first? Ladies. What time is it? It's time for the ladies. 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 It's the ladies first Chit-Chat crew. It's time for the ladies. You want. Be great. Speak what you want. Be great. Speak what you want. Be great. And we're up first. Bonjour, unboxed. Bonjour, unboxed. Bonjour, unboxed. And we're up first. Yes, ladies. That's dope. Yes, ladies. That's dope. Yes, ladies. That's dope. And we're up first. It's time for the ladies. Chit-Chat crew. One time for the ladies in the house. 2 time make the people scream and shout. LaShelle, Chandra, Crystal with Nikki. On Boss, Ed, May, and Nikki. Hey, 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 hey. L-A-D-I-S, I-S, I-S, L-A-D-I-S, and we're up first. L-A-D-I-S, I-S, I-S, L-A-D-I-S, and we're up first.
Bye, y'all.